Back here on CBS Sports HQ, presented by Jeep. Two of the last three #1 overall picks went on to win Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flagg, the favorite to continue the trend. The Mavs rookie listed at -190, followed by Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson at +850. Further down the board, Dylan Harper at +1200, and VJ Edgecombe listed at 25 to 1. All right, back here with Adam Finkelstein, Gary Parrish, and Kyle Boone. Cooper Flagg is the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Kyle, would you bet on Cooper to put up the numbers needed to win Rookie of the Year?
I would. He's going to win it. Look, I don't think he's going to lead rookies in scoring next season. He may not even lead rookies in rebounds or blocks, but his impact that we saw at Duke, he led college basketball in box plus minus and player efficiency rating. He's so good in so many different ways that don't always translate to box scores. I do think, though, that he ends up winning Rookie of the Year. Looking down the odds list, at -190 for Flagg, obviously he is going to be the heavy favorite. Trey Johnson at +850, very, very interesting. I think he's going to be one of the rookie leaders in scoring next season. Then Parrish, someone who ended up slipping to number 20 on draft night to the Miami Heat. Landed in a good situation. Miami is, I think, going to take a step forward on offense. He will have a big reason for that. Parrish +6,000 for Rookie of the Year. Maybe just sprinkle a little bit. I thought that was an interesting one.
Wow, a little sprinkle there on Yakachonis.
A little sprinkle. I like a little Trey Johnson action there. I mean, he's going to go to Washington. He's not going to impact winning like Cooper is. He's not going to stuff all columns of the stat sheet like Cooper is. But he's probably going to take more shots, and that's what Trey likes to do. He's going to a situation in Washington where he's going to be allowed to do what he does, and that is shoot the basketball. I think of all the young assets they've acquired in the last couple of years, one of the questions they've asked with the Wizards is, who is our alpha scorer? That's been an unanswered question for the last 2 seasons. Trey's going to have an opportunity to come in and play that part, or at least audition for that part, and the sheer volume is going to give him an opportunity to compete for that award if something unexpected happens with Cooper. But I agree, Cooper is the heavy favorite. But if you want a little sprinkle.
If I were going to sprinkle something on this, as they say, I would be more comfortable taking Trey Johnson at +800 than laying -190 with Cooper Flagg, because, as you know, anything can happen, injuries included. But a quick history lesson. Database with this type of stuff only goes back to 2006 that I can find. But since then, there's only been 3 players the day after the first round of the NBA draft who have been this big of a favorite to win Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flagg, Victor Wembanyama, and Kevin Durant. The other 2 guys, they won Rookie of the Year really with no problem. Cooper Flagg is probably going to hold that trophy just the same.
Yeah, I just want to read this one more time because, I've talked about this throughout the draft coverage. He's the first player in Division I history, 700 points, 250 rebounds, 150 assists, 50 steals, 50 blocks in a season. The first player in Division I history. Yeah. This is a special talent. I'm not saying he's LeBron James or he's Victor Wembanyama, but this is a special talent. And look, if you're only laying -190, take my money. I'll tell you what Nico Harrison said. He said, take Luka. Mavs trade away Luka, but then they win the golden ticket. They had just a 1 point. He didn't know how important he was. He did. And they didn't know that he was going to land the #1 overall pick. They had a 1.8% chance to land the #1 pick. Sometimes better to be lucky than good. As for the biggest steal of the first round, Adam, I'll go your way first here. Who got away with one in round 1?
Well, Kyle just mentioned it. The Heat, Parrish Yakachonis. I mean, I don't think anybody could have anticipated him dropping all the way to 20. I think part of the reason we've talked about this is the case for Yakachonis was the skill and the feel for the game, but some of the analytics didn't match up. He had a high turnover rate, and the shooting numbers weren't quite as high as you would like. Now, my theory is that maybe he's not a primary playmaker. Maybe he's not a pure point guard. Maybe he'd be better off playing off a more dynamic guard like Tyler Herro. So put him in Miami, let Tyler do his thing, create the advantage, and then KJ can be the one to keep the advantage moving. I think he's going to be able to impact winning, and I think the fact that he's going to Miami with a chip on his shoulder is just going to make him all the more valuable with the 20th pick in the draft.
To me, the biggest steal of the first round is what Atlanta did to New Orleans in that trade between the 23rd and the 13 picks last night. As you know, at this point, New Orleans wanted to move up to grab Derek Queen. They go up to 13. They do a deal with Atlanta. Atlanta drops back to 23. What we subsequently found out is that New Orleans sent to Atlanta, yes, a first-round pick, but insanely, an unprotected first-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft. What that means, and I don't want to get hyperbolic, but what it quite literally means is that New Orleans could have just done a deal last night that could result in them sending the #1 overall pick to Atlanta next season. And this is in a draft where there are 3 dudes at least who project as franchise-type players. I don't think anybody in the NBA understands why New Orleans made this deal the way they made this deal on the opening night of the 2025 NBA draft, because even if Derek Queen is everything they think he can be, it is still possible for New Orleans to be bad next season in a stacked Western Conference, in an injury-riddled Zion Williamson. And if they're bad, those ping pong balls get to bouncing around, and that pick is going to go to Atlanta, and it could be really, really good.
Let me get that steal. Let me get that dunk. Let me get that steal. Let me get that unprotected first-round pick. Kyle, for you, who was the biggest steal of the first round?
It's Jace Richardson at number 25 for the Orlando Magic for me. And this is a guy who I had higher than maybe mocks projected. He was a top 15 player on my big board. And I think that was in part a slip because he did not measure well at the NBA Draft Combine, measured just over 6 foot without shoes. And I think the history of smaller guards projecting from college to the NBA, I think there are some concerns, but what we saw in his one season at Michigan State was nothing short of spectacular. He's very efficient as a scorer. He can create both on and off the ball. He's got a really good wingspan. And if the name sounds familiar, guys, it should. He's the son of Jason Richardson, who played in the NBA for a very long time. Tom Izzo, in fact, did a story talking with Matt Norlander during last season. And something that stuck with me from that story was Tom Izzo watched tape with Jace Richardson, and one thing he noticed was that he had a photographic memory. He remembered things better than even Tom Izzo, the Hall of Famer, remembered. And he had a quote that he shared with Matt Norlander that said, "I hope that he can't go to Vegas because he shouldn't be allowed to go to Vegas." The way that he processes things at such a high level, I think he's such a smart player, fits in really nicely with the Orlando Magic. And Paolo Banchero is obviously there. Desmond Bane is obviously there. Adding Jace Richardson to the mix at number 25, I love the selection for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, his dad, Jason Richardson, played a couple seasons in Orlando during his NBA career, and now his son headed to the Magic. All right, how about the biggest steal of the second round? Adam, who got major value on day 2?
Well, we've already talked about a few of them, but another one I want to recognize is the Kings getting Maxime Reynaud at number 42. And Reynaud was someone that I had a first-round grade on. I thought it was very reasonable. He went somewhere between 25 and 30. We're talking about someone who is 7 feet tall, shot 45% on open catch-and-shoot threes, can really put the ball on the floor, and is also a good athlete for his size. And by the way, he got over 10 rebounds per game. So to get someone like that whose skill set and physical profile fits the NBA game, and don't get me wrong, he's going to have to continue to improve in some areas. But again, I think he's an NBA player. And to get him at 42, someone who can come in and maybe be your backup 5, maybe even play alongside a more traditional 5 because of his floor spacing, there's real value there. I thought that was a great pick for Sacramento.
I love what Phoenix did, going up to 31. Reportedly, Minnesota had just let the league know, and whoever wants this pick, we're willing to do a deal for it. It was a bidding war. Phoenix goes up, gets it, uses that pick on Rasheer Fleming. He was the highest rated prospect that I had on my board who was not selected in the first round of the 2025 NBA draft. So not surprising to me to see him go off first on night 2. 6'9" forward, 7'5" wingspan, shot roughly 40% from three-point range. Like, he measures the right way. The shooting percentages look the right way. We'll see if he can, process things well enough to actually, compete in that league. But in Phoenix, where they are totally remaking that roster and they are guard heavy, short in the front court, there might be some real playing time opportunity for him as a rookie.
Kyle, who got the pilfer of the second round that you like?
The pilfer of the second night, that was the Charlotte Hornets getting Ryan Kalkbrenner at number 34. We talked about the Hornets draft, and I love what they did on day 2. largely because I love the selection of Ryan Kalkbrenner at number 34 overall. This is a first-round player who was selected in the second round of the draft. He is amazing defensively, a drop ball defensive coverage type of center, someone who I think can space the floor, shot 34% from three-point range last season. I think the numbers speak for himself. He was productive throughout 5 seasons at Creighton. Last season, he was an All-American. He averaged over 19 points per game last season, averaged nearly 9 rebounds per game last season. I think he steps into a role with the Charlotte Hornets as a starting center right away. You don't get starting caliber anything in the second round of the NBA draft, but I really think Charlotte got a starter in Ryan Kalkbrenner at number 34.
Get him to the rim, dunk the basketball. He can knock down a couple threes for you as well. Never too early to look ahead to 2026. Top 3 prospects according to 24/7 Sports: Darren Peterson, A.J. DeBonsa, and Cam Boozer. Look, this is a nice class here, Adam, and I know that you've been doing the rankings, of course, at 24/7 Sports, but what should we know about Darren Peterson, who will play at Kansas?
Well, you should know that any one of those 3 players could make a claim. The reason why we went with Peterson as the #1 prospect, quite frankly, he made the most gains as a senior. You were talking about someone who now measures at 6'6" with shoes on. He's got long arms, 6'10" wingspan. He's made an incredible commitment to his conditioning, and it's made his athleticism pop. And then there's this effortless just understanding of how to get to his spots and score, the type of instincts that can't necessarily be taught. Bill Self has said he's the best recruit he's ever had. And by the way, he's had guys named Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid. So pretty darn good. But as I said, GP, there's 2 other guys that could still be in the running for the #1 pick.
And Bill, just so you know, has a good grasp for this. I can remember being at Allen Fieldhouse in the fall before Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid ever played their first game at Kansas. So it's just preseason workouts. I'm there to do a story on Andrew Wiggins, who was the consensus #1 player in the class, in the country, and projected to be all of these things. And I remember Bill, at that point, before they'd ever played a game, saying, he's going to be the best player I've ever coached. And I said, who? And he pointed to Embiid, not Wiggins. He said, that'll be the one. So he's done this type of thing before. That's how awesome Darren Peterson must be. Here's another way to illustrate how awesome he must be. Because Fink, and I'm going to trust him on this, ranks him ahead of A.J. DeBonsa. And, buddy, when I seen A.J. DeBonsa, I couldn't imagine anybody being ranked ahead of him. From the first time I ever saw him, he looked exactly like somebody who's going to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft someday. Long, incredible shot maker. Like everything that everybody thinks Ace Bailey can become, that's like what A.J. DeBonsa is, like a better version of, except also taller. He's a special shot maker. I sat down with him at Peach Jam a couple of summers ago, spent about 20 minutes, long conversation, was really impressed. And this was after his freshman year of high school. And in that summer, he led Peach Jam in scoring after his freshman year of high school. Now, he was a little older than your typical freshman, but still, that's not a normal thing. The top of next year's draft is going to be incredible. And if you are picking in the top 3, you're going to land somebody that could change a franchise potentially.
Yeah, and he's going to go play for Kevin Young, who, of course, has plenty of NBA experience. So it's BYU and then on to the NBA. And him choosing BYU was incredible for that university. He chose them over Alabama, Kansas, and North Carolina. All right, Cameron Boozer's the 3rd-rated prospect. His twin brother Caden is in the top 25, the sons of former All-Star Carlos Boozer. Following in his footsteps, both heading to Duke. Kyle, what's the scouting report on Cameron Boozer?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. It should. He's the son of Carlos Boozer, who obviously had a long, productive NBA career, and I have a soft spot for guys who are sons of former NBA players. I just talked up Jace Richardson. We're talking about Cameron Boozer, someone who's a very physical power forward, bruiser, the boozer, however you want to say it, someone who can play inside and out with great touch. He has a ton of finesse to his game, someone who I think has really light feet for someone who is his size. Just a lot of skill for someone who is packed with someone just so strong at his age. And, you know, I think there's a lot of interest around Boozer, someone who I think will step into a situation at Duke and immediately be one of the best players in college basketball next season. I'm not entirely sure he'll be the #1 pick, but I think certainly he will be in the mix because of his polish, because of his finesse. And he's going to be fun to watch next season playing with the Blue Devils.
And perhaps the Hawks will use that unprotected first-round pick on one of these three guys. We'll wait to see. Kyle Boone, Adam Finkelstein, and Gary Parrish here on CBS Sports HQ. And look, you want more awesome content? Check out 24/7 Sports. It is the destination for all things recruiting with a network of resources. 24/7 Sports delivers the latest news and information across the college football and college basketball landscapes. You can also access content from 24/7 Sports on their YouTube channel.